What is the best place to live in Burlington? Is it North Burlington or South Burlington? Well, that's exactly what we're going to be chatting about today, comparing and contrasting the two so you know which one is right for you. So this is a common question I get all the time, is whether or not North or South Burlington is right for you and which one is better. And to be honest with you, there's no one right answer, as everyone's lifestyles and desires are all different. So in today's video, I thought I would break down and compare and contrast North versus South Burlington, what the costs of living are, what are some of the lifestyles they provide you, the crime rates, and a few other categories so you can make the best decision for yourself. Now, before we dive in and start comparing and contrasting North versus South Burlington, let's first define what exactly is North versus South Burlington. So North Burlington is everything north of the QEW and the 403, and then you guessed it right, South Burlington is everything south of the QEW and 403. So as you can see, Burlington is really divided up into two halves through the highway here. So that's how we're going to be defining North versus South Burlington in today's video. So other than that, let's dive on in to the very first topic, which is the cost of living. So overall, when you live in Burlington, Ontario, you can expect to live around the Ontario average for the majority of your cost of living when it comes to groceries, transportation, utilities, and more. However, where you start to see your cost of living rise has to be the housing in Burlington. And the reason why this is because there's an extreme demand for people wanting to move here, because over the last years, Burlington has been rated one of the best cities in Canada, and therefore there's just a lot of demand of people looking to move here. So overall, what you can expect when you're comparing North versus South Burlington, as the utilities, the groceries, the transportation are all going to cost the same, where it really jacks up is the housing prices. And in particular, there's a couple rules of thumb. So one is that as you get closer to the water at Lake Ontario, which is South Burlington, the homes are going to get more expensive as more and more people want to live by the water and capitalize on all the waterfront features Burlington has to offer. But not only that, typically in these neighborhoods here, especially by the water, like Roseland and Shore Acres, they sit on very big, mature lots, giving you ample room outdoors. Plus, there's a lot of massive homes on these things here. And because of that, you can definitely expect to pay a little bit more of a premium in South Burlington when you compare it to North Burlington. Now, that's not to say that there's not some affordable neighborhoods, as there is Dines, there is Longmore, which are located closer to the QEW and the 403 that offer a bit more of affordable housings in South Burlington. So in North Burlington, what you'll find is typically a bit more of affordable homes, as overall, North Burlington has smaller lots, as these homes were developed in the late 90s, early 2000s, and even some in the 2010s in the case of Alton Village. And as a result, the lots are smaller. The homes are typically a bit more standardized, where in South Burlington, you'll have a lot of teardowns, and therefore you'll have these massive mansions besides some raised ranches and bungalows that were built in the 60s and 70s and even 80s. Whereas typically in North Burlington, they're pretty uniform homes. And not to mention that, because some of them are developed in the late 2000s, like the Orchard, or also in Alton Village, you can find places with not much green space, which isn't the worst thing in the world, as it does make the home prices more affordable and attainable to get in at. Now with North Burlington, overall, you might have to pay a bit more in transportation. And the reason why this is South Burlington, you do have access more to public transportation, and you don't always have to rely on the car. Where North Burlington, you're almost always going to have to rely around the car unless you're running to a quick errand that's by a plaza near you. So now that you understand the cost of living, let's dive on in deeper into a bit more of the lifestyle options North versus South Burlington has to offer. So overall, let's first start off with South Burlington again. And South Burlington offers some great spots. And the very first one has to be the bars and restaurants. Because South Burlington includes downtown Burlington, there's a lot of great local restaurants for you to enjoy, typically, especially if you're living in the Central or Maple neighborhoods, within just walking distance of your door. And as a result of this, you're going to be able to capitalize on some great restaurants to eat out and enjoy some immaculate views of Lake Ontario. But if eating out and enjoying great food isn't enough for you, South Burlington also offers a bunch of annual festivals, whether you got the Rib Fest, which is Canada's largest Rib Fest, happening in Spencer Smith Park, or Sound of Music, which a bunch of great up-and-coming artists come through Burlington, or the food truck festival, my personal favorite, to go and grab a bunch of different cuisines from around the world. And one final quick thing that really makes South Burlington unique compared to North Burlington is South Burlington is also home to Burlington Beach, offering you that beach lifestyle if you enjoy getting out on the water early in the morning, getting on a paddleboard or kayak, and watching the sunrise while you're on the water. Now, other than that, just overall, the lifestyle in South Burlington tends to be less car dependent. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't like Toronto, as you've probably heard if you've watched any of my videos here. The public transportation in Burlington as a whole is not the best. However, South Burlington does offer the best opportunity for you to capitalize on the public transportation, as well as just being able to walk around to the bars or the restaurants or anything else it has to offer. So now let's chat about North Burlington, and there's a couple great things about living in North Burlington. And the very first one has to be all the nature exploring you can do, as you got Brawny Creek just in between Burlington and Oakville in North Burlington, as well as you have the Niagara Escarpment with some great hiking trails, and you have a bunch of different green spaces. Now, overall, Burlington is a great spot for just having great parks in almost all of its neighborhoods. But in North Burlington, not only do you have some great parks, but you also have golf courses located in two of the neighborhoods. Both Millcroft and Tyandaga have their own community golf course, which is fantastic for any golf lovers out there. Now, there are some similarities of living in North and South Burlington that come together, and the very first one has to be all the green spaces it offers, as there's a bunch of different parks and recreational centers and fields located throughout both of these areas here. But not only that, it also offers very safe neighborhoods both in North and South Burlington, as overall, Burlington has been rated one of the safest communities to live in, and therefore it's no surprise that North and South Burlington are great spots to live and raise a family. So if you are interested in learning more about where the safest neighborhoods in Burlington exactly are, what I will do is leave a link to the Halton police map, giving you the most up-to-date records, showing you exactly where the criminal activity is when you're watching this video here. Now, similar to crime rates, another thing that's similar with North and South Burlington has to be the schooling system, as overall, Burlington has some of the best schools in Ontario, with them routinely ranking in the top percentages. Now, if you're interested in learning more about this here, I broke it down in a completely different video ranking the best neighborhoods to have the school. So if you're interested in that, you can go check out that video there. But other than that, let's move on. Some of the cons of why maybe you shouldn't live in North versus South Burlington. So as you probably have heard me already say this, as if you live in North Burlington, if you're really looking for that car-free lifestyle and commuting to work, would not advise North Burlington unless you are around one of the GO train stations right beside the QEW. But other than that, another thing about North Burlington is if you want a unique house, North Burlington typically has the standardized housings, as builders typically came in and they've developed each neighborhood in itself. So each neighborhood has its own characteristics. However, in each neighborhood, there's a rough theme associated with that. Now, I know some people that really want some of their own unique style with their home here. You're more likely to find that in South Burlington, as overall, South Burlington was developed at a later date, so there's a lot of rebuilds and new homes mixed with a lot of old homes. Now, another thing about North Burlington that you might not love, as if you enjoy going out to the bars, while North Burlington does have a few bars that you could go enjoy, like Beer Town, for example, overall, the great bars located in Burlington are located in South Burlington. Now, as for why you maybe shouldn't live in South Burlington, the very first one is if you're not willing to pay an arm and a leg for the premiums. Now, like I mentioned, Roseland and Short Acres are some of the most expensive neighborhoods in Burlington, and there's good reason for that, because the houses are immaculate, but that does come with a premium price tag. So those were the key differences about living in Burlington, Ontario from South or North Burlington. Now, no matter where you choose to live in Burlington, I promise you, you won't be disappointed, as Burlington offers its residents a great lifestyle no matter where you live. And if you're interested in learning more about exactly what neighborhoods have the best schools, the next video I recommend you check out is my video going over exactly that, the best neighborhoods and where the best schools are throughout Burlington. Hope to chat with you guys soon. So until next time.